And at number 10, animatronic hoax. The purple guy animatronic legend is an urban legend revolving around FNAF 2 in early 2015. A YouTube video surfaced that reportedly showed a hidden animatronic reported to be the purple guy, the main antagonist of the franchise. And at this point, all we knew about him was that he was purple and that he killed people. The appearance of the purple animatronic was preceded by a phone ringing, and after the phone rang, the purple animatronic briefly flashed on screen, slumped over against the wall of the office in a manner similar to Golden Freddy, as a reference to the phone guy being the purple guy, which again isn't true. However, it was soon revealed that the animatronic was simply a photoshopped image of Golden Freddy with a purple color scheme and Chica's head. I think it's fairly obvious that it was photoshopped, and I mean, we've used this image in thumbnails a couple of times, but no, the character never actually showed up in the game. Plus, if there was a purple guy animatronic, it wouldn't be reused assets. Like, come on people, I know it was 2015, but still, I wouldn't have believed this if I saw it, okay? I feel like it's very clearly fake. I don't know. That's just me. And at 9, the pink guy. The purple versus pink guy debate is the Mike versus Will Trap debate of the early FNAF days. When all we had to do was worry about different colors and not like 14 other purple characters. This debate came after FNAF 2's Foxy Go 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 minigame, where some fans believed the guy standing in the corner all smiley while Foxy discovered a group of dead kids was a couple shades lighter than the original purple guy we saw killing kids outside the pizzeria. This, combined with the whole one's killing on the outside, one's killing on the inside thing, got them nicknamed Purple Guy and Pink Guy. However, this was ultimately put to bed when the strategy guide known as the Freddy Files was released and stated that in the Foxy Go 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 minigame, quote, "Here you'll play as Foxy, leaving the previous room. You enter a room full of children as party poppers go off. When the last one goes off, you return to your starting position and must make your way to the kids once again, and then again. The last time you do, Purple Guy is visible in the lower left corner of the room. He's smiling. In the next room, the children are dead. This post-death minigame ends with a Foxy jump scare," end quote. So yeah, Scott himself said it was Purple Guy, so it's Purple Guy. And at 8, Nathan Dunlap. In December of 1993, after Chuck E. Cheese had closed in Aurora, Colorado, Margaret Kohlberg, who was the manager of this Chuck E. Cheese, was tallying receipts in the back room. While she was doing that, Bobby Stevens was scrubbing down the kitchen, and Ben Grant, Colleen O'Connor, and Sylvia Crawwell were all working in the main party area. However, there was someone hiding in the bathroom, 19-year-old Nathan Dunlap, who earlier that year had begun working as a cook, but was fired after an argument over his hours. But this time he was looking for revenge. He exited the bathroom and began firing, killing everyone in the building. First Sylvia, then Ben, then Colleen, then he went into the kitchen where he shot Bobby, although Bobby ended up surviving and was actually a key witness in his case. Then Nathan went to the back room, where Margaret opened the safe before being shot twice. Nathan filled her bag with $1,500 cash, arcade tokens, and keychains, but thanks to the security cameras, he was promptly arrested and sentenced to death. Thanks to MatPat and his first game theory on FNAF, this one is fairly well known, hence why it's closer to the top, but if I didn't include it, I feel like everyone in the comments would have asked me why, so there you go. And at number 7, Clown Springtrap. Clown Springtrap is Springtrap's third skin and the third skin to be introduced in the Dark Circus event for FNAF AR. Clown Springtrap has pale white skin with blue and purple makeup above his eyes, he has messy purple hair coming out of the top of his head, and large red lipstick on as well, a la Joker or Pennywise. Clown Springtrap's body is mostly covered by a large suit with ripped up black pants and a black shirt, along with a red and purple vest. He features large red clown shoes, obviously, along with a large bow tie and a flower on his chest. His right eyelid has also been stitched up. Finally, he carries around a very large red mallet in his left hand. And considering how clowns are one of the most common fears, with more people in the United States being scared of clowns than global warming, I think putting Clown Springtrap on this list when he is intentionally killing you in your own home is definitely understandable. Even if it's on your phone, okay? The dude is menacing. Like, he has a hammer. Like Harley Quinn, but not cute. And at 6, Springtrap. It's pretty universally known that FNAF 3 is one of the easier FNAF games, with only one animatronic that can really kill you, and if you can juggle in between a couple of rooms, you're overall able to survive fairly easily. But while some consider this game scary, overall it's one of the least scary of all, and that's actually thanks to Springtrap. Springtrap's jump scare in this game is actually the worst jump scare in the series, having the only real scare factor being the sound that plays along with it. But as for the actual model, he just moves towards you a little bit and that's it. There was also an interview with Daco as a reward for him beating 50/20 Mode of Ultimate Custom Night, where Scott said that he was going to end this series after Game 3, but the community's disappointment with the Springtrap jump scare caused him to make a 4th game with the Nightmare animatronics, so I guess you can kinda see how he was overcompensating. The interview is available for you to listen to online on Daco's channel, so don't go telling me that I'm incorrect without watching it, because he says it, or at the very least heavily implies it, okay? It's been a while since I actually watched it, so I can't remember exactly, but the fact that Springtrap isn't all that scary in in his game is why he's so high on this list. Halfway through into number 5, Garvey. Garvey is the Dormitibus version of Springtrap. Garvey is the penultimate antagonist in Dormitibus, and as a human, he was the man who murdered the missing children. He later went on to get spring-locked in Spring Bonnie, becoming Springtrap, and then was burned to a permanent death in the Fazbear Fright's fire, which is kind of where these two start to differ. He looks absolutely horrific. The suit on his limbs and his body is heavily tattered and just torn to bits. He has organic remains far more visible than they are with Springtrap, even with Scrap Trap or Burn Trap. His lower jaw is deformed and broken. It shows his corpse, like his mouth and jaw. Garvey also has an unnatural animalistic-like stance, walking in all 4 limbs. His limbs also appear to be snapped in multiple places, alluding to these being bent in unnatural ways, and his left hand serves as a foot, and his left foot serves as a hand, like some deranged spider monkey from hell. He is also much bigger than Springtrap or any other threat in the game. He's absolutely terrifying and scarier than any other animatronic in Dormitibus, hands down, but since it's not an official version, I decided to put it at number 5, despite it being absolutely horrifying. Actually, him being horrifying is why he's not at the top of the list along with the purple guy animatronic hoax. In at 4, Glitch Trap. Glitch Trap is the code version of William from the VR game FNAF Help Wanted, where he serves as the main antagonist and the latest, or at least at the time, the latest reincarnation of William Afton after his soul latched onto a circuit board containing usable code. He manifests in game and is somehow able to control certain aspects. He is somehow able to interact with the ending of the game, being the one to stuff us in the Freddy suit, unless he ended up cloning the actual like Mal hair character and making his own and using that kind of thing. But the thing is, like, he wasn't supposed to be in the game, so unless he does that, how does he have such an important role at the end of the game? Then he starts dancing once he's able to kill us again. The dancing is actually the scariest part about this. But Glitch Trap is reminiscent of the first suit that William used to kill, or at least is intended to be. The stitch marks on the suits indicate such, and that's really off-putting, okay? Knowing that this is the first instance that William starts killing someone just sets me on edge. It's scary in another kind of way, like one that sticks with you long after you've closed the game, instead of just fading off after 10 seconds like a jump scare, especially when we see him lure us into a dark room behind a curtain. Yeah. It still sends shivers down my spine. Getting close to the end in number 3, The Curse. The Curse is an Aztec themed skin for the Springtrap animatronic and was released on March 5th in the Ancient Equinox event and is the 4th skin for Springtrap in total in FNAF AR. Curse is a teal colored Springtrap dressed to look like an ancient Aztec warrior, and he has a large feathered crown and a golden chest piece. This guy looks like he's actually decaying finally, which is certainly a better spin on things since decaying bodies aren't purple, even though the series seems to try to push that idea. Bruises are purple. Decay is commonly, at least in cartoons and this kind of media, depicted as green. Much like how Springtrap's suit in the Curse form is a dark green. This could also be a subtle reference to the fact that Afton is a curse on these games, being unable to get rid of him in any meaningful way, or maybe just about Glitch Trap. He's a curse on the series too. He needs to die permanently, please, for the love of God. And ultimately, in at number 2, Toxic Springtrap. Toxic Springtrap from FNAF AR Special Delivery is a purple version of the character instead of being like the real Springtrap, okay? I could be wrong here, I haven't actually played Special Delivery and I don't really know the lore behind this, but as it appears, it's like Toxic Springtrap is supposed to be a separate entity, but he does act more aggressive. Whereas Flaming Springtrap, among others on this list, act the exact same as they would have with like the normal Springtrap, you know? They would have acted the same way, okay? And actually, Flaming Springtrap technically has a canon explanation thanks to the FNAF 6 ending, if he did end up catching fire, at least, which he kinda did because of Burn Trap. Anyway, Toxic Springtrap has wart-like bubbles all over his skin that appear to be some form of poison that bubbles or something like that. He also emits constant gases and it's really gross and nasty, and honestly, it puts me on edge. It's nauseous and it reminds me of a few of my exes. And finally, in at number 1, Burn Trap. William appears as the optional yet canon final boss in FNAF Security Breach. Named as Burn Trap according to the game files, he only appears in the Afton ending, or the true ending. This form is the result after Vanny downloaded William's soul from the digital realm into his old hybrid abomination of an animatronic suit. The endoskeleton from his old suit's remains and a little bit of his corpse, along with new bits of animatronic endo that seem to be from Glamrock's. Burn Trap's new rotten form appears to wear his old but modified tattered greenish brown Spring Bonnie suit that has become even more severely withered because, you know, it's been through like 3 fires at this point. The entire lower jaw is ripped out and it reveals his skull covered in blood with some burnt flesh, because that, I'm sure, smells great. Metallic black eyes, small purple pupils. The suit is missing fur with the exception of his chest, hips, left foot, and upper left leg, which which are just gone. It's all burned away, revealing more of his remains. His old endoskeleton has also, at least in parts, been replaced by seemingly, potentially the glam rock Bonnie endoskeleton, but that's unconfirmed, that's just a theory. But it ends up making him even taller, and then it also gave him claws with sharp fingers, okay? Although two of them seem to not have been replaced since they have little fleshy bits and bones still on his right hand. And at 10, Dave Miller. In the novels, Afton is described as being overweight around the time that the actual serial killings occur, but he eventually lost the weight while in his Dave Miller persona, which comes from the FNAF novels, particularly in the Silver Eyes. As Dave, William is stated to be tall and was described as being sallow and thin, with his skin sagging in appearance. His face was poorly shaven and his eyes looked unfocused and sunken, I relate. His security guard uniform doesn't seem to fit him properly, and the uniform was grubby and torn in places. With his name tag hung askew on his chest, the scar on his neck was also ugly and curved, almost like a perfect half moon, and the same scar appeared on the other side of his neck. In the graphic novels, Dave is depicted as having brown messy hair and gray eyes. He wears a security uniform, his shirt is white, and his black tie and his black pants, and due to the spring lock failure incident, there are endoskeleton arm marks on him where his arms are. Yeah, you know, that's also where how he got the two scars on the back of his neck, the spring lock. In at 9, Vanny. Vanny is possessed by Glitchtrap, a reincarnation of William Afton, and appears as the main antagonist of FNAF Security Breach. It's also revealed in the Princess Quest minigames that she was the main protagonist of FNAF Help Wanted, the character that we play as, where she actually ended up first getting corrupted by Glitchtrap when we beat the game. She also plays a role in FNAF AR Special Delivery, but that's beside the point, really. Vanny wears a white bunny costume that has stitching all over it with a large pink tartan stitch on her left hip. Vanny is shown to be murderous and evil as she attempts to trick her target Gregory into falling into a trap by pretending to be nice and well-meaning as Vanessa. She seems to cower in fear of her master Glitchtrap, as shown in scrap dialogue, but she also quivers when she's actually talking about him. She's also uncertain, based on her voice, when being confronted about her task, implying that she was first hesitant to kill people. However, by the time the security breaches come around, she's either already killed 9 children at the Pizzaplex, as seen in a newspaper article, although they could have also just been captured, or it's just that Glitchtrap has more control. And while she wasn't around much in the game, technically being possessed by Glitchtrap makes her a version of William, so suck it, haters. And at 8, Scrap Trap. William returned once again in FNAF Pizzeria Simulator with a new design, this time dubbed Scrap Trap. While he does retain some key physical details from Springtrap's design though, there are some major differences. Unlike his previous design where his interior was mostly machinery, now it seems to be almost entirely organic, and it shows his human skeleton as well as his old flesh, with 5 bony fingers on his right hand. And the reason as to why William is so much more detailed this time, probably because more of his body can actually be seen, and you can actually see his full body in like the alley in one of the boot screens. There are way more torn patches in his suit this time, with multiple metal wires and exposed and other bits, and he lost his forearm for some reason. Half of his ear is gone, like the last version, and the rest of his right ear is gone. His feet now have fabric over them with 3 large toes. His eyes no longer glow, and now they look completely metallic. The mask also has some significant differences, with much larger eye sockets, a black nose, a square muzzle, a singular pair of buck teeth, and a row of at the top with like small sharp needle teeth at the bottom too, as well as just being differently proportioned, which begs the question, how the hell did this happen? Artistic license is the actual answer, but in universe I have no idea how his head got bigger. And it's 7, Glitchtrap. Glitchtrap is the digital manifestation of William Afton that first appears in Help Wanted. Glitchtrap takes on the form of a man wearing a cartoonish Spring Bunny costume based on Spring Bunny's original design from a poster advertising Fredbear's Family Diner. He also wears a purple star speckled vest, a purple bow tie, and 2 black buttons around the top of his chest like he's wearing a suit even though it's literally just fur. He also has stitches across his hands and across like the rest of his body because the suit is supposed to be sewn together because it's all fabric and not an animatronic. And he also has vivid purple eyes, which is the tiniest little pupil, and it's terrifying, which are the first thing visible when he actually starts to appear to the player's right. In blacklight mode, his eyes will actually turn blue with white circular pupils, and he has very large whiskers on the side of his face, you know, 3 eyelashes for some reason on his eyes, and large arching eyebrows, making him just as surprised as I am. While he is unable to jump scare or really hurt you in the game, that does make him less scary, but he is certainly creepy and definitely scarier than Scrap Trap. And at 6, Purple Guy. William Afton is depicted as the purple guy in FNAF 2, a mysterious purple purple figure in the FNAF series. In the Take Cake minigame, he is depicted driving up outside of the pizzeria and then killing Charlotte outside of the restaurant. Finally, then he lures 5 children into the back room using cake, and then seen in the Foxy Go 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 minigame, he killed them too. Those are the ones that presumably go on to possess Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, Foxy, and Golden Freddy. The puppet would then give them life in the animatronic suits to save their souls, possibly. Again, we don't know, it's FNAF, I don't know. The wiki is saying a lot of things like it's confirmed, but it's really not. But it is unconfirmed whether William or the puppet actually put the kids in the suits. In the second game, he is implied to be the night guard before Jeremy Fitzgerald, and then after surviving a week on the shift, he was upped to day shift because he complained about the conditions of his workplace. And he threatened to unionize. Get the employers sweating. Then he went on to kill 5 more kids. This version is mostly scary because I remember the lore of trying to figure out who he was, and this series came out when I was in the 10th grade. Alright, that's like when I was 14, since I was born in September and this was released in like the summer. Okay, Purple Guy was created after I was 15. It has been more than 5 years since Purple Guy's been a thing, and I've been suffering ever since. Halfway through into number 5, Springtrap. Springtrap is William's first physical incarnation, yet still his most iconic, appearing as a weak yet still living William Afton, sealed inside the heavily damaged Golden Bonnie Springlock suit. This first version appeared in FNAF 3, and he had a very drab olive color with darker colors on his stomach and the inside of his ears, because you know that's how they shade bunnies. And a great portion of his right ear was missing. His right, not his left, sorry about that. With a single red wire sticking out of the stump. Springtrap's entire body was torn and tattered with gaping holes bearing exposed wires and casing throughout, making him appear much more macabre looking than any of the other animatronics from the previous installments, although the nightmares would then take this and then up it to an 11. His green or brown and black nose had an irregular squarish shape due to deterioration, assumingly, with both of Springtrap's hands and feet being attached and generally intact. His legs are entirely stripped from the mid-shin down, fully exposing the endoskeleton wiring, the metal, and also his tendons that would have made up this section of William, at least if he wasn't trapped in the animatronic suit and had a lot of his leg taken up by robot bits. And keep in mind that Afton is still alive at this point, since the one you should not have killed was keeping him alive so that he could continue to suffer. So honestly, that seems pretty terrifying. And at 4, Clown Springtrap. Clown Springtrap is Springtrap's third skin and the third skin to be introduced in the Dark Circus event for FNAF AR. Clown Springtrap has a pale white suit and blue and purple makeup above his eyes. He has messy purple hair coming out of his head, and he also has large red lipstick because why not? He's a clown. Clown Springtrap's body is mostly covered by a large suit with ripped up black pants and a black shirt, along with a red and purple vest. He features large red clown shoes along with a large red bow tie and flower on his chest, and his right eyelid has also been stitched up for whatever reason. Finally, he carries around a very large red mallet in his left hand, and considering how clowns are one of the most common fears in the world, I think putting Clown Springtrap on this list is definitely justified, especially when he's intentionally jump scaring you in your own home, even if it's on your phone, okay? The dude is menacing. He has a hammer. It's like Harley Quinn, but not as cute. And he's also basically meant to be a reference to John Wayne Gacy, at least in my head, that's how I understand it, so yeah. Getting close to the end in number 3, The Curse. The Curse is an Aztec themed skin for Springtrap, and it was released on March 5th in the Ancient Equinox event, and is the 4th skin for Springtrap overall. The Curse is a teal colored Springtrap dressed to look like an ancient Aztec warrior, and has a large feathered crown and a golden chest piece. His hands are colored orange with sharp black claws, and in one of them he holds a large golden shield. Finally, he is decorated head to toe in large feathers. This guy looks like he's actually decaying, which is certainly a better spin on things, since, you know, decaying bodies aren't purple, even though this series seems to try and push that idea. Bruises are purple, decay is commonly depicted as green, much like how Springtrap's suit in his curse form is dark green. This also could be a subtle reference to the fact that Afton is a curse on these games and my life, being unable to get rid of him in any meaningful way. Or maybe just about Glitch Trap and the Curse of Dreadbear DLC. Who knows? You know what? I do. He's a curse on this series and he needs to die permanently so that I can move on with my life. Not to mention that just in general, Springtrap as a character looks creepier in FNAF AR than FNAF 3 or FNAF VR, okay? Just take a look at the pictures on the wiki and you'll see, it's horrifying. And ultimately in at number 2, John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy, as I'm sure you know, was an American serial killer who killed 33 young men and boys. Gacy regularly performed at children's hospitals and charitable events as Pogo or Patches the Clown, personas that he had devised. He became known as the Killer Clown due to his public services as a clown prior to the discovery of these crimes, but jeez. Gacy committed all of the crimes inside of his ranch house, which is a horrible idea, just like William killing inside of his own pizzeria. Typically, he would lure a victim to his home and then dupe them into donning handcuffs on the pretext of demonstrating a magic trick. And while this is absolutely disgusting and really makes me sick to my stomach, there are still a few similarities to Afton. Okay, killing in a place related to you. For Gacy, it was his ranch house, and for Afton, it's his business. The target demographic is also the same with young people, although Afton also killed girls, which I don't even want. Ugh. And while you may think that this is a stretch, even FNAF itself made the connection with FNAF AR through the clown Springtrap skin. Intentional or not, come on, that's a connection. Finally, and at number 1, Burn Trap. William appears as the optional yet canon final boss of FNAF Security Breach, named as Burn Trap according to his game files. He only appears in the Afton ending, and this form is a result of Vanny downloading William's soul or code brain from the digital realm into a hybrid of animatronics. I don't even know. Burn Trap's new rotten form appears to be his old one, like a modified, tattered greenish brown spring Bonnie suit, but even more severely withered because he's been through 3 fires, and his entire lower jaw is finally ripped out, revealing the skull covered in blood, which for some reason is still there. His suit is missing fur with the exception of his chest, hips, left foot, upper leg, which were all burned away, revealing more of his corpse and his charred remains. His old endoskeleton has been replaced with some of the endoskeletons from other animatronics, maybe even glam rock animatronics for his hands. He's made taller, and he has claws. God. Just why? And at 10, Brian Wells. This is certainly an interesting case that you may not really think relates to William, but let me explain my thought process. Brian Douglas Wells was an American pizza delivery driver who was killed during a complex bank robbery plot. The plot involved a collar bomb, a scavenger hunt, the robbery itself, and a pizza delivery man. Following an attempt to rob PNC Bank, Wells was surrounded by police. That's when the bomb around his neck ended up detonating, killing him. And while his family denies that he was a part of it, investigators and a federal prosecutor concluded that Wells was a knowing participant in the bank robbery. However, he was told that the bomb was fake, and he did not know that his co-conspirators intended for him to die. Now, I think that it was probably detonated because he got caught and they didn't want him to rat on them, and that is the prevailing theory amongst these people as well, amongst the prosecutor and whatnot. But aside from being a pizza delivery man for Mamma Mia's Pizzeria, what possible connection could he have to Afton? Well, being killed by a device that was supposed to be safe, for one, the spring locking and the collar, being betrayed by your peers, in William's case most likely Henry, and the affinity for complex plans. I feel like this may have been at least a slight source of inspiration, especially since this came up when I searched for pizza place serial killers, because I was hoping that there would be one. That's weird to say. Let's just move on. And at 9, Andrew Cunanan. Andrew Cunanan was born in San Diego, California, and eventually settled in San Francisco's Castro district and socialized with older, wealthy gay men while indulging heavily in illicit substances. It's unclear what set him off, but he began a cross-country killing spree of 5 unknown victims, the last of which was actually fashion designer Gianni Versace. Cunanan killed himself on a Miami boathouse in 1997, and if that didn't set off an alarm, congratulations, you have not been ruined by FNAF yet. However, William Afton also had 5 victims at least, but definitely only had 5 when FNAF 1 and even around FNAF 2 was released. And while FNAF 1 does take place in 1993, many have theorized it to instead take place in 1997, which is unlikely given the minimum wage of the times and the connection to another real person, but nonetheless, it's certainly an interesting case of more possible dates lining up and the same number of victims. You know, a lot of people on this list are actually going to have 5 victims, and it's extremely creepy. And at 8, Scrap Trap. See, this one is a bit weird because, well, you can decide if you want to deal with this incarnation of Afton or not, since you don't really have to salvage the animatronic. You can just leave it for scrap and not keep it inside the building, thus allowing yourself to not have to stress over a psychotic killer rabbit. Which is my personal recommendation, because Afton has caused enough pain and misery in my life already. However, if you make the fool's decision and trap Scrap Trap, you have the possibility of being jump scared and attacked, which usually would happen when you're not focused on protecting yourself. So mostly when you're worried about your pizzeria or completing the tasks that you need to do in order to leave and complete the day. But this one is more unexpected, and Scraptrap is certainly kind of freaky, so needless to say it deserves to be higher up on the list. However, there are scarier versions despite this. And it's 7 Burke and Hare. The Burke and Hare murders were 16 serial killings committed over a period of about 10 months in 1828 in Edinburgh, Scotland. The 2 men who committed these killings, last names Burke and Hare, were doing it because they also sold the corpses to Robert Knox for dissection at his anatomy lectures. There was actually a shortage of corpses in Edinburgh, and thus people actually started grave robbing and selling the corpses rather than selling the possessions, since a loophole in the system only considered it a theft if the body was taken with its clothes. Naked corpses were fine to take though, apparently. They didn't really think that one through. These 2 were killing in the name of science, something that we suspect William was doing as well. However, they actually were, in a messed up way, contributing to the furthering of science, whereas William is only doing it for his own selfish reasons and to become immortal. After Hare was given immunity to confess to the murders so that they could convict Burke, Burke was sentenced to death. Shortly afterwards, his corpse was dissected and his skeleton was displayed at the Anatomical Museum of Edinburgh Medical School, where, as of 2021, it actually still remains. Oh, and by the way, the reason they're known as Burke and Hare was because both of their first names are William. Yeah. So maybe Afton's wife is named something similar. And at 6, Ted Bundy. During an interview with Daco, PJ Haywood, the voice actor for William Afton in Sister Location, FNAF AR, and Ultimate Custom Night, said that Scott Cawthon described William as being a charismatic, smooth-talking snake oil salesman, which coincides with Book William being able to convince anyone of anything. This is actually very similar to how Ted Bundy had been described. Bundy was regarded as charismatic and handsome, traits that he exploited to win the trust of both his victims and society as a whole. He would typically approach his victims in public places, either feigning a physical impairment such as an injury or impersonating an authority figure, before bludgeoning them until they were unconscious. While he did operate nearly a decade before Afton started his spree, those are merely just like year numbers. But one of the most interesting facts, however, is that in 1975, Bundy was arrested and jailed in Utah for aggravated kidnapping and attempted criminal assault. In Utah, where the games and the crimes of Afton take place. Halfway through into number 5, Arthur Gary Bishop. Arthur Gary Bishop was an American serial killer in 1983, and as a result of a routine police investigation, he confessed to the murders of 5 young boys between 1979 and 1983. Bishop was born in Hinckley, Utah, and was the eldest of 6 brothers. Bishop was raised as a devout Latter-day Saint, Mormon, and was an Eagle Scout and an honors student, which is already suspicious in comparison to Afton, given that Afton was also regarded as intelligent given his talent for animatronics, especially in the 80s, and his passion for business. But not only that, Bishop also operated under an alias. Bishop was arrested for embezzlement in February of 1978 and given a 5-year suspended sentence, but he skipped his parole and fled to Salt Lake City, living under the alias of Roger Downs. Under this alias, Bishop would then kill 5 boys between 1979 and 1983. It's also interesting that multiple key dates in Bishop's life line up closely to releases of FNAF games. On July 14th, 1993, he was arrested, and FNAF 4 came out on July 23rd, 9 days after that. Well, not in the same year, but you know what I mean. Bishop's first kill was on October 14th, 1979, and Sister Location was released on October 7th. I mean, it's not concrete, but it's certainly interesting. Plus, also he was caught in 1983, the same year that Crying Child was bit. In at 4, Donald Harvey. Harvey belonged to a group of psychos known as the Angels of Mercy who claimed to kill for the benefit of the victim. Harvey was convicted of 37 of his more than 57 suspected murders, and he confessed to as many as 87. When Harvey was hired at the Cincinnati VA Medical Hospital, he managed to collect over 30 pounds of cyanide which he had kept in his home. He also kept diaries and detailed notes on each one of his victims, including how he killed them. That gives me just that's intense William Afton vibes. Like, not for some certain reasons, but the delusion of him thinking that he was doing it for the benefit of the victims or just for any benefit it's horrifying, okay? It's the exact same kind of delusion that I could see William having. And a similar delusion to what he seems to have in the games. In the books, he's not exactly like this from my memory, but the game version certainly seems to be the type, okay? Especially given his appearance in the Foxy Go 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 minigame where he's smiling. Getting close to the end in number 3, Thomas Lee Dillon. Thomas Lee Dillon was a serial sniper found guilty of killing 5 men. Again, with the 5. Directed by voices in his head, Dillon killed people randomly. According to attending psychiatrists, Dillon's delusions of grandeur spilled over into the reality of his life and the lives of his victims. His victims were killed by a high-powered rifle while they participated in outdoor activities, sometimes hundreds of miles from Dillon's home. Authorities did not link the killings to Dillon until he actually sent a letter to a local paper. After the FBI put together a criminal profile of the killer, a friend of Dillon's actually brought into the attention of the authorities, which in my mind is very close to the story of William Afton. The amount of victims, the authorities only investigating those murders after they got tipped off by a friend of the killer, in Afton's case that being Henry, the delusions or the voices in his head could be him being possessed. But honestly, a whole load of these people are just so much like William, it's terrifying. Penultimately, in at number 2, Springtrap Rule. One of the most terrifying things that, while not really has happened to anyone in any of the games, is the sheer amount of famous internet rule images and videos that there are for these characters. Like, I get it if it's Chica, okay? But like, the worst thing that I think, at least for the terrifying scale, is Springtrap Rule 34 art. The rule basically being that for anything you can find on the internet, there will be some adult version of that content. Unfortunately, FNAF and even Springtrap are not immune to this rule. But just think about this for a second, alright? Just really think. Most people consider William Afton to be dead, even if he's not actually dead. Which means that most people who look these things up are looking at a dead serial killer's rotting corpse stuck inside an animatronic that has shoved every inch of him with metal and want him to shove it into other things. And then think, yeah, damn, that's sexy. I've had people DM me these form of Springtrap images before and they have been instantly blocked. Like, dude, what? He's literally a man who should be dead but is being kept alive by the spirit of one of his victims, those victims being kids, and then you want to see him lubing up Troll Tower? Dude, this is the reason God is dead. Specifically this. Nothing else, just Springtrap Rule 34. And finally, in at number 1, Robert Berdella. Robert Berdella is, to me, the seemingly perfect inspiration for William Afton. Not only did this man own his own business called Bob's Bizarre Bazaar, where he reportedly sold human skulls, but he also seemingly started his killing spree in 1984. The MO is certainly not the same. Berdella would drug and kidnap men that he met in bars and on the streets, but the same idea of killing people you meet in a restaurant scene is carried over to William. There is no confirmed inspiration for William, hence this list, but there are certainly a decent amount of similarities between these two. In fact, if you combine like all the serial killers we talked about on this list, especially these last 4, you'll basically get a real William Afton, and I don't like that, okay? That's horrifying. But again, that was the point of this list, so it was a way for me to talk about FNAF without having to talk about FNAF, okay? I didn't go into too much detail with these because, well, I'm sure you can guess why, but yeah. Either way, I think that this is a pretty... The similarities are scary, that's all I have to say.